we talk about protecting data, it is easy to focus only on tools and forget that protection is ultimately about boundaries. Data becomes risky the moment it moves beyond the limits you intended for it, whether that movement is to an unauthorized person, an insecure system, or an uncontrolled environment. In this episode, we bring together the practical elements of data protection by focusing on three connected ideas: access boundaries, encryption decisions, and controlled sharing patterns. These are not abstract policy concepts. They are daily operational choices that determine whether sensitive information stays contained or quietly spreads beyond your visibility. Strong data protection is less about locking everything down and more about intentionally shaping how data flows and who can interact with it. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Access boundaries are the first and most visible layer of data protection because they define who can reach information in the first place. When data is widely accessible by default, every account becomes a potential exposure point, and a single compromised credential can have broad impact. Establishing clear boundaries means defining roles, mapping those roles to data categories, and enforcing least privilege consistently. Least privilege is not about distrust. It is about reducing unnecessary exposure so that users only have access to the information they truly need. When access boundaries are well designed, risk decreases automatically because fewer pathways exist for accidental or malicious misuse. Implementing access boundaries effectively requires alignment between identity systems and data repositories. If user roles are loosely defined or inconsistently applied, access boundaries quickly become blurred. For example, if access groups grow over time without review, users may accumulate permissions that no longer match their responsibilities. Regular access reviews ensure that boundaries remain current and appropriate. Clear ownership of data repositories also supports strong boundaries, because someone must be accountable for approving access and maintaining correct permissions. Without ownership clarity, boundaries erode quietly. Segmentation of data environments reinforces access boundaries at a structural level. Just as network segmentation limits communication between systems, data segmentation limits interaction between datasets of different sensitivity levels. Highly sensitive data may reside in restricted repositories separate from general internal data. Administrative systems may be isolated from user-accessible systems to reduce exposure. Segmentation does not rely solely on user behavior. It creates physical or logical separation that enforces protection even if a user makes a mistake. Structural boundaries add resilience to human boundaries. Encryption decisions form the second major pillar of data protection because encryption determines what happens if boundaries are crossed. If sensitive data is accessed without authorization or intercepted in transit, encryption can prevent it from being readable. Encryption at rest protects data stored on servers, cloud platforms, or backup media. Encryption in transit protects data moving across networks, especially when crossing untrusted segments. Deciding when and where to apply encryption should be guided by impact, not convenience, so that higher sensitivity data consistently receives stronger protection. Encryption decisions also involve key management, which is often overlooked but critically important. Encryption is only as strong as the control over its keys. If keys are stored carelessly or shared broadly, encryption provides a false sense of security. Proper key management includes restricting access, rotating keys periodically, and monitoring for misuse. Strong key governance ensures that encryption remains an effective barrier rather than a symbolic one. Without disciplined key handling, encrypted data may still be vulnerable. Balancing encryption with usability requires thoughtful planning because excessive complexity can create operational strain. For example, encrypted storage must still allow authorized users to retrieve and process data efficiently. Encryption policies should align with workflows so that protective measures do not drive users toward insecure workarounds. Practical encryption decisions consider both risk and productivity, aiming to protect without paralyzing operations. When encryption aligns with real work patterns, adoption is smoother and compliance stronger. Controlled sharing patterns represent the third major element of data protection because sharing is often where boundaries fail. Data rarely stays in one place. It moves between teams, partners, and systems. Controlled sharing means defining approved channels and methods for transferring information based on classification tier. For sensitive data, this may involve secure file transfer platforms, restricted collaboration environments, or documented approval processes. By contrast, lower sensitivity data may be shared more freely. The key is intentionality rather than ad hoc distribution. Controlled sharing also requires attention to external collaboration, which is a common source of exposure. Vendors, contractors, and partners may legitimately require access to certain information, but that access should be limited in scope and duration. Temporary access, monitored sessions, and contractual protections reinforce sharing boundaries. Clear rules prevent informal sharing through personal accounts or unsecured messaging platforms. Structured collaboration maintains security without blocking legitimate business needs. Monitoring and auditing are essential to ensure that access boundaries and sharing rules remain effective. Logs that track access to sensitive repositories and record file sharing events provide visibility into data movement. Unusual patterns, such as mass downloads or repeated external sharing, may indicate misuse or compromise. Monitoring is not about surveillance, but about safeguarding valuable information. Visibility enables early detection of boundary violations. Data lifecycle management further strengthens protection by limiting how long information remains accessible. Retention policies should reflect both regulatory requirements and business necessity. When data is no longer needed, secure deletion reduces exposure. Lifecycle controls prevent accumulation of outdated sensitive information that could become a liability. Managing the full lifespan of data supports long-term resilience. Cloud environments introduce additional complexity because data may reside across distributed infrastructure. Access controls, encryption settings, and sharing permissions must be configured consistently across cloud services. Misconfigured cloud storage is a common cause of exposure, especially when default settings allow broader access than intended. Cloud protection requires deliberate configuration review and continuous validation. Extending protection principles to cloud environments maintains unified security posture. Training and awareness support technical controls by reinforcing responsible handling behavior. Employees should understand why access boundaries exist and how encryption protects the organization. They should also recognize approved sharing channels and know how to request access properly. Education reduces accidental boundary violations and strengthens culture. Human understanding complements system enforcement. Testing and validation confirm that data protection controls work as expected. Access reviews can reveal excessive permissions, while simulated sharing scenarios can test whether unauthorized transfers are blocked. Encryption validation ensures that data cannot be accessed without proper keys. Regular testing identifies weaknesses before attackers do. Continuous evaluation keeps protection aligned with evolving risk. Ultimately, protecting data with access boundaries, encryption decisions, and controlled sharing patterns is about managing flow and exposure intentionally. Access boundaries restrict who can reach information, encryption protects it when boundaries are crossed, and controlled sharing ensures movement occurs through safe channels. When these elements are designed cohesively and reinforced by monitoring and validation, data remains contained and resilient. Over time, disciplined data protection reduces the likelihood that sensitive information becomes the source of costly incidents or loss of trust.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.